What's up everyone, Soldier First Class here, and today's mission, we're going to do an analysis of all the new footage we got in the recent Final Fantasy VII Remake documentary inside Final Fantasy VII Remake. From Johnny and the Shinra manager to brand new characters created for the remake, there's a lot of new stuff to break down. I also want to make some corrections to my last video, which discussed the information dump we got yesterday. I know it should probably be known without saying, but this entire video will be about new footage, so if you're trying to play the game blind, I wouldn't dive too much deeper into this video. One of the things I'd like to point out from yesterday's video is the enemy skill materia screenshot we got. In the bottom left corner, you'll notice the game clock. Now this isn't necessarily indicative of the game's length, but it currently sits at 39 hours, 43 minutes, and 20 seconds. It would also appear that the backdrop is from the aftermath of the plate collapsing. If this is true, we're at 40 hours and we're not even to the Shinra HQ yet. Even though I've been hammering away at this point for over a year now, I want to show proof of this game's length every time it shows up. So anyway, the new footage starts out with Aerith and Cloud in the church just after Cloud has fallen through the roof. It's not much and there's no audio for any of these clips, but we can tell from the camera angle that Aerith is trying to wake Cloud up. It then flashes to Tifa and Cloud is handing her the flower. What I'm loving about these two particular scenes is that we're seeing things in a first-person perspective from Cloud. I think this use of first-person camera will allow us to really get into Cloud's character in a way that we've never really been able to before. It feels like the player is waking up to Aerith and it feels like the player is handing Tifa the flower. We also saw this type of camera with the Nibelheim flashback scene where Cloud walked out of his childhood home only to be confronted by child Tifa. I'm hoping that more of these scenes will take place like this because seeing the world through Cloud's eyes is something I've only ever dreamed of. We also got a few familiar faces in the new scenes as we saw Barret without sunglasses and Reno in a more industrial area with holographic screens behind him. It looks like it could be inside of a reactor or the Shinra HQ building. So it appears that not only will Reno be a boss fight in the church and on the Sector 7 pillar, he may be a boss fight elsewhere in Midgar as well. We then see a new scene with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, and they're around their bikes from the bike chase scenes. We know this is a different scenario from the Rosh scenario from TGS, as this time, Cloud and Wedge are riding together. In the TGS trailer, it was Jesse and Cloud riding together. This is all part of the expansion of the game's story, and it could be that this is where we head for Jesse's parents' house. The Jesse's parents event was confirmed by remake director Tetsuya Nomura in a recent interview. This next scene is completely brand new, and I'm honestly not sure what to think about it. Cloud is in someone's home and entering a room. Once in the room, we can see a bed with an IV drip next to it, signaling that someone here is very sick. Or it could possibly be that this person are sick, if you catch my drift. It may not be in an abandoned pipe, but I guess the scene could have been altered to take place in a house. There's also the possibility that this is Jesse's parents' house and there's something wrong with one of her parents. It'll be interesting to see what this scene turns out to be. We then get a scene of Tifa at what appears to be the front of the 7th heaven if I had to guess. From her hand motions and the way she acts, it appears she may be giving someone a little bit of that Tifa sass. There are a few NPCs hanging out in the background, but nothing really of note here. Cloud then encounters a street gang, but for obvious reasons doesn't look too concerned. This appears to be taking place just outside the 7th heaven, as we can see the front steps to the right of the screenshot. They're wearing open leather vests and both feature short silver necklaces. They also feature what looks like a red chocobo on the back of their vest, which when combined with both wearing the same outfit, could mean these guys are part of some organized crime. I don't really have a major theory on who these guys could be, as I don't really recognize them from anything. There's also something different about the Honeybee Inn. When we went into the Honeybee Inn in the original, it was just Cloud, but this time it appears that Aerith will now be following Cloud in there. Not sure if Aerith will also change into her dress there, but we saw her outside of the Honeybee Inn in an earlier trailer, so it's possible that she gets changed and then waits outside for Cloud. Next up is the Shinra manager, and while we saw him in yesterday's video, I didn't show him meeting up with his family. He has a wife and daughter who meet him at the train station, but that's not the only thing that we can take away from this screenshot. A character from the Kazushige Nojima novel, The Kids Are Alright, makes her Final Fantasy VII Remake debut. You can see Kairi in the background of the scene, and it'll be interesting to see what role she will play in the remake. I also want to point out Train Guy, as you can see him in the corner of the screen just before we see the Shinra manager. Also, did anyone get HMK vibes from this guy? We then have Avalanche celebrating after getting off the train when they bombed the Sector 1 reactor. You can tell it's the famous train station because Cloud is getting off the train and still has the flower attached to his suspenders. This lines up directly with what happens in the original bombing run after Cloud jumps onto the train to escape the Shinra army. I did notice that there's some graffiti in the background as well that reads, "Shoot for the stars." I'm not sure if it means anything within the world, but just something fun I noticed. Even in the demo, we had the world building with little stamps, so I'm going to be combing every sign and graffiti for hidden messages. Next we got to see one of the player choices in action as Cloud checks on Tifa to begin the sewer segment after Wall Market. There wasn't much to this other than waking up Tifa. So I've been wondering about this, and I think a lot of other fans have too, but I just noticed something in this older scene with Cloud at the 7th heaven. If you look closely, underneath the pinball machine here, the floor is completely different from the floor around it. It appears to me that they kept the Avalanche hideout from the original, and the way you access it will be the same. A minor detail and could just be a nostalgia thing, but I'll be interested to see if this is true. I'm honestly not sure how I didn't catch this before. There's also a scene with Biggs, Tifa, and Barrett, and they're standing next to some sort of ventilation shaft. I'm not entirely sure what this could be, but it's a brand new scene for the remake if I'm not mistaken. Next we have Leslie Kyle, and thanks to you guys in the ranks, I figured out he wasn't a new character at all, but one of the characters from Nojima's The Kids Are Alright. I mistakenly said that in my previous video, and I've got the book ordered and waiting for it to come in so I can finally read it. I knew about Kairi just from the internet forums, but since I haven't read the book, I don't want to make assumptions or read too much into the characters before I do read it. Next up is a small glimpse at the Sector 6 plate on display, and I had a few people comment on yesterday's video about the description about Wall Market. This is very much canon, and the reason Wall Market is built on top of the ruins of Sector 6. Sector 6 is the plate that is unfinished when we look at the panning shot of Midgar from the intro. It's also the same exact reactor that we walk through the construction area and the playground, and it's the same one that's containing Wall Market. The reason this plate is incomplete is because it was destroyed in Before Crisis, a mobile-only game following the story of the Turks. Since Kitase said that some events from the compilation will be canon, it's likely that this is still the case. That means that Wall Market was built on top of the ruins caused by the fight with Zirconiad. Next up is Sector 7, and we get to see a few things in the background. There is a massive amount of daylight here, but that appears to be due to the fact that the plates don't extend all the way to the walls of Midgar. This allows sunlight to flow in for the citizens of the slums. We also know that this is Sector 7 for two reasons. One, Chadley is in the background here, and two, the beginner's hall is slightly hidden in the background, but you can see the sign for it. It also appears that Cloud and Tifa will be doing a bit of exploration together from a lot of the screenshots we've been getting so far. Next we have Johnny, which has been like an icon for NPCs everywhere. Constantly popping up in places you wouldn't expect, Johnny is arguably the most memorable and fan-favorite NPC in the original game. Except for maybe Bugenhagen, of course. I mean, come on, same energy here, am I right? From the video footage, it looks like he's going to have the punky comic relief vibe to him, which I think captures his essence nicely. We then see a much longer scene of Aerith and Cloud with the flower. Cloud begins talking to Aerith, and it's clear she's pressing him a little bit more than he's comfortable with, and he starts to act a little distant and possibly shy. Again, same energy, right? The next shot is one that I put in yesterday's video, but didn't notice something very important. Chocobo Sam is holding a coin and appears to be ready to toss it. It's apparently well known that Chocobo Sam is an avid gambler, and with this shot being part of a cutscene, I would assume he's challenging the party to a game of chance. This would be something really cool and that lines up with his character, and I wonder if that will translate into a minigame later in the game. Or it could honestly be a challenge that Cloud has to take on to get into the Don's mansion. Almost all of the new characters shown yesterday were the ones approving women for Don Corneo. This means it will likely have to complete a side quest for them in order to get in. We also got a better look at the Watchmen of Fate. While we didn't see their faces or anything like that, we did get to see that they are more solid in shape than originally thought. You can see here that the one charging Cloud is very solid, and only its cape is really see-through. However, when Cloud slashes it, it instantly disappears. So it's unclear if we'll actually fight these things for ourselves or if they will be restricted to cutscenes. I want to mention how great the random NPCs are in this game. It feels like each one has a mind of their own, and their movements and actions seem very real. I haven't noticed a lot of reused models like we saw in 15's NPCs, so it appears that Midgar is actually going to feel like a real city with real people. We saw this in the aftermath scenes, and seeing it here under the daylight in Sector 7 really shows these NPCs are a big part of the world. To wrap this up, we got some new combat options with Tifa and what they do, and honestly, they really fit her playstyle and character perfectly. The first move is Overpower, and it states, use in conjunction with basic attacks to more effectively pressure enemies. I'm assuming this means that you'll pop this ability, and your basic attacks will cause enemies to stagger more quickly. This makes a lot of sense for her character, as it means her combos will be even more deadly and effective. Then we have the ability Chakra, and this is a pretty familiar ability if you've ever played Final Fantasy Tactics. This is one of the famous monk abilities, and since Tifa's fighting style fits that description, this ability makes perfect sense. It states, heals HP relative to damage taken, more effective when HP is low, also cures poison. So the more HP you've lost, the more HP is healed, and it cures poison. Not sure how much curing poison will be necessary, but it's also a good combo for an ability that could be effective for self-preservation. I love that each character has abilities that make themselves self-reliant, but also distinguishes their own personal styles. Overall, we got a lot of new footage, and I still can't help but feel like this is still the tip of the iceberg. We saw in the enemy skill screenshot that the game clock suggests there will be a massive time investment for this game. I know I can't wait to get my hands on it, and everything we've seen so far has only reinforced my hype for this game. Nomura promised a massive amount of density, and I think we're seeing that promise being kept. It makes me that much more excited for the future of this project. So what do you think, soldiers? How do you feel about the life and detail in the city of Midgar? Before I go, I'd love to give a special shout out to Jake Blackwell and Slans for becoming my new patrons. Thanks for making my dreams of becoming a full-time content creator that much closer to reality. Congratulations on becoming a Soldier First Class. Shout out to Jake and Slans and the rest of the ranks of Soldier. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to Omni-slash that like button. Let me know in the comments section below how you feel about this heavily expanded Midgar. Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell to join the ranks of Soldier today. And for all the latest Final Fantasy VII Remake, news, rumors, and trailers, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'm on to the next mission. Later, guys.